What's up, everybody? We are the Hypes Watch, and we are happy to be here to discuss today one of my personal favorite chapters in the whole series of A Song of Ice and Fire. And of course, we're talking about A Storm of Swords, Jon 10, the famous chapter where the Wildlings get smashed as the true king of Westeros comes and saves the day. So we're going to go down the panel and have everyone introduce themselves, and we'll start with Tinker.
Hello everyone, you probably know me. I'm Tinker Jessa. I'm really excited to do a reread again. And this is an interesting chapter. I've got to admit that I'm not terribly prepared because I've had a lot of things going on, but I'm still very excited to talk about this chapter because I think it's a great one. And it was a very good choice, James, because this was your chapter choice.
Yes, indeed. LT Giles.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's LT Giles here. I definitely love this chapter because it shows you that about the king who cared.
Well said, LT. Well said. And of course, Jerry the Targaryen Steamboat.
Stannis. Yeah, Jerry the Targaryen Steamboat here, and let's get started.
All right, guys, we'll just jump right into it. In the description, I put in the link to the Tower of Hand chapter summary, and that's what we're going to go off of. And we'll stop every once in a while and discuss what what we read. So starting out, we see that Jon is being lowered down the side of the wall in a cage. After 4 days in a cell, he was brought before Lord Janos Slynt and Sir Alliser Thorne. Maester Aemon has written to Cotter protesting Jon's imprisonment, and Janos can no longer hang him. Instead, he is sending Jon as an envoy to Mance, who has asked for a parley. Lord Janos wants Jon to kill Mance. Jon walks through the gate and is met by Tormund. So we'll stop there. And we'll discuss this first portion with, come on, let's admit it, the deplorable Janos Slynt and Alliser Thorne. They are not have, I like Alliser in the TV show, but I mean, in the books, he really doesn't have that many redeeming qualities for sure. So we'll start with Jerry. What did you think about this whole sequence with essentially, Alliser, kind of getting in Jon's head by saying, "Oh, he'll do what what we say to prove that he is not a turncloak because he knows what makes pushes Jon's buttons," and just how deplorable Janos Slynt is and how dumb he is.
Yeah, I mean, he's completely stupid. I mean, in the previous chapter, Aemon was trying to tell him, "Hey, he already told us. He told me and Donald Noy, what went on, and we, it was acceptable for us." And Slynt was just like, "I don't care what the crippled says. I don't give a damn." Like, he's making his own, what do you call it? Judgment. Well, I don't know what stupid judgment based on really nothing but Slynt's hate of Jon, and yeah, Slynt, not Slynt, Alliser Thorne's hate of Jon, and Thorne just doesn't. I don't know what's up with Thorne. Like, is he part of the Night's Watch for real? Because he seems to be like throwing it all away just to get back at Jon. And like you said, he knows exactly what makes him tick. Like, instead of taking it seriously, and maybe seeing what he can do to get his black brothers out of it, he's instead like, let's just throw in the rookie, get him fucked, But yeah, that's my thoughts there on these two fools.
Right. And LT, what do you think about that whole situation, Slynt and Thorne?
I just hate Janos Slynt coming in. Okay, if I'm corrected, he hasn't said his vows yet, right? At this point, we don't know, but I don't think he did. And he comes in and thinks he's going to be Lord Commander, barking orders, push Jon Snow in the cell, and just making these stupid calls. And basically, they're sending Jon out there to die. They think, oh, he's going to get out. He's going to go out there. He's going to die. We're not going to have to worry about him no more. And it's just really annoying to me.
And Tink, I know you have probably a lot of great things to say about Thorne and Slynt.
You know how I am with characters that are despicable and horrible and just plain mean. I just don't like those characters, and I particularly dislike Janos Slynt. Like, I really hate Sir Alliser Thorne. I really do. But Sir Janos Slynt, it's even worse because Sir Alliser I hate him. But it's very clear where he comes from. He likes, he feels threatened by Jon. He says that, like, the lords know thing as a way to demean him. But the point is that he is, even if he's a bastard, the son of a lord on the north. And they are in the north. Like, come on, he comes from the south and Jon is from so, that's important. And the wall has always had a strong connection with Winterfell. And he didn't like, Jon wasn't someone that came and, tried to be like, one of those people that tried to like kiss up to those up. And the fact that he was a Targaryen loyalist and the Starks, but like there was a lot of things that came from Jon that he hated. So it doesn't matter if Jon is someone that could be good for the wall and could be good for the brothers. Like, he's thinking selfishly, not as a man from the wall. And the fact that they are a minority, that the wall is falling apart to pieces, and they really need every fighting man. And Jon is a really good fighter. He's a really good, he's someone that could lead, and he finds that threatened. And instead of, manning up and being a man and admitting that, Jon could be a leader and that he could be really good for the watch, he only feels that the threat that he could be to his power and to his status quo. But because he's also a big bully, and he knows that Jon cannot stand bullies. Like, if Jon was another bully, maybe that would have, allowed later on for them to, like, be buddies. We've clearly seen in this chapter that Janos and Sir Alistair are clearly budding up, but they're because the same style of person. And but at least Sir Alistair has been in the wall for a very, very long time. I can understand that. He's been there for years. He's already established himself, and he feels strongly threatened by Jon. But Sir Janos Slynt, he's an asshole that I think he came from the reinforcement from Eastwatch. At least that's what we kind of get from because I also read the chapter before, and he comes towards the very end, and Jon thinks that he comes with the reinforcement from Eastwatch, and that is where Tyrion sent him. So I do think that he's done his vows by now. At least I believe, because it would make sense. But he just comes in. He's brand new. He hasn't been in the wall for very long, and he just suddenly thinks that he can start ordering around, and he's useless. At least Sir Alistair can fight and can do stuff. Even if he's an asshole, at least he can contribute to the wall in some small part. But Sir Janos Slynt, he's just a useless bag of nothing. He's constantly telling him, you should call him Sir, and I'm Lord Janos. Like, he keeps on remarking those tiny little things that mean absolutely nothing in the wall. Come on, they're in the wall. You're not landed. You don't have titles. That's the whole part. Once you go to the wall, you have to renounce everything. And he's constantly like adding those tiny little details and calling him a traitor and a turncoat. Well, what the hell is he? So it's just it drives me nuts. Like, I really don't like Janos Slynt. Like, the best moment of Janos Slynt is the moment that he loses his head. And that's my rant.
I'm pretty sure.
Spoiler alert. No.
I'm pretty sure Slynt is taking his vows, but I mean, it doesn't really it makes me wonder what kind of his recruitment process was his, because most people have to be sent to Castle Black first, then they get assigned somewhere. But it seems like Slynt was just assigned automatically. I don't know how that worked, but.
Things were a bit of a chaos when he got sent, so I imagine that he arrived at Eastwatch and so many things were happening. They just said, oh, well, just do your vows, and then just... Well,
I'm sure Tywin had something to do with it, because remember, he wanted Slynt to be Lord Commander because he wanted someone loyal to the Lannisters at the Wall, to be head of the Wall. But I do think that Slynt was definitely a sworn brother, because I don't think he could come in right away and, be putting claims of treason and oath-breaking on Jon without being an actual brother. That's what I mean. I think and I don't think they ever made it a point to talk about Slynt's saying the vows, because I mean, who gives a fuck about Slynt?
As far as Thorne goes, I mean, can he fight? I don't remember him ever fighting. I remember he trained people how to fight, so at least he knew that. And it wasn't just Jon he really picked on. I mean, Jon was the worst because he hated Ned. He hated the Starks because he was a Targaryen loyalist. But so he especially hated anyone Baratheon or Stark or anything that he considered to be the front runner of the downfall of the Targaryens.
He was a big bully.
Yeah, he was a bully because he would give everyone nicknames, and because of that, when he tried to run like in the next chapter for Lord Commander, he didn't get anywhere. No one liked him.
I mean, I'm going to assume that Thorne could fight a little. I mean, he did fight in Robert's Rebellion. He was a trained knight. Was good enough to be master of arms at Castle Black. I mean, I'm assuming he can fight some, at least. I mean, probably not like a legendary warrior or anything, but I'm sure he could fight a little.
No core and half hand.
Stannis Lint could do. Is there any point in the books in which he shows that he's capable of doing anything?
Oh, he captures Ned, but that's about it.
Hey, he was a commander of the Gold Cloaks, Tinker. He was a mighty warrior.
Oh, please. He's just giving it because he's a ass kisser and because Cersei knew that way he could, he'd be under his control.
Well, he was also Baelish's man, remember, too. He was really Baelish's man to begin with.
He was anyone who could pay him and could put him in a position of power.
Speaking of Janos Slynt, let's one sign that you can tell that someone is a douchebag automatically is when they refer to themselves in a third person, which leads to this quote: Janos Slynt does not make terms with lawless savages, Lord Snow. No, he does not, said Janos Slynt. So yes.
God, yes, that sentence. It was dreadful. I'd even erased it from my head.
Yes. Whenever you speak about yourself in the third person, it's like automatic douchebag alert.
Well, yeah, like when he comes, he's like, or when what's his name, Mance asks for a parley to talk to someone. He's like, yeah, he's the reason he's asking is he knows now that Janos Slynt is here, that he's in trouble.
Oh yes, that's true, Jerry. I keep blocking up everything that he says because it's so stupid. But it is. But yes, Jerry. Oh God, I laughed out loud when I read that.
Yeah,
when I was reading, I literally started laughing.
Now that Janos Slynt has arrived, he knows he's not going to win now, and the only reason he's not coming over here is because he knows Janos Slynt would hang him for the traitor he is.
It's true. Well, oh my God, yes. Oh, Jerry, that's fantastic. Yes, I forgot it.
We all know how a one-on-one fight with Mance Rayder and Janos Slynt would go. Of course, Janos Slynt would easily defeat the King Beyond the Wall. No,
he would slay him with one stroke of his great sword or whatever he uses. I don't know.
I know we're getting a little off topic here, but just to point out that Mance actually, unlike the show, Mance was actually one of the best fighters in all of the series. He basically, in order to get all the wildlings together, he had to kick a lot of leaders' asses, and usually they became leaders because they were the best fighters amongst their people.
Didn't he kick Jon's ass a few times too? If I remember,
he kicked Jon's ass no problem, like as glamored as Rattleshirt.
Yeah, he defeats Jon pretty easily, and that's when he's Lord Commander too. He gives him a nice shiner and beats his ass down. But now one thing's interesting.
But I've got to admit that while Mance was a very good fighter and he would have kicked his ass, what I would have loved to see is Tormund against Janos Slynt while Janos is trying to talk to Tormund, like saying all those kind of stuff, and just can you imagine Tormund's reaction and Tormund's comebacks? That would be a fun fight to watch.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard because Tormund, he says later in his fighting style, he's like, yeah, I didn't like that guy. He has no hair. He has no beard. How are you supposed to grab a guy during a fight? And Janos Slynt is losing hair. Like Jon mentions it, I think in the previous chapter that he's like, he's about to be as bald as Mormont.
So,
but it's Janos Slynt, and I just want to hear the comebacks from Tormund, from hearing Lord Janos speak like that. Come on, he would like tear him apart by his words.
One line of dialogue that interested me in this first part came from Alliser Thorne, and he says, Aemon's lived too long, my lord, Sir Alliser. His wits have gone dark as his eyes. So we know that Alliser Thorne is a Targaryen loyalist. Did it kind of surprise you to hear him say this? Does he not know that Aemon is a Targaryen? I kind of forgot about that. If he knows that Aemon is actually a Targaryen or not, but I mean, I think he would, being a Targaryen loyalist. But what do you think about that line?
Who says so?
Aemon, or Alliser says, Aemon's lived too long, my lord, Sir Alliser assured him. His wits have gone dark as his eyes. So he's kind of throwing shade at Alliser, or at Maester Aemon, when Alliser himself is a Targaryen loyalist. So what do you kind of think about him saying that?
Well, he's a Targaryen loyalist, that's true. But Sir Alistair Thorne, I think he's been in the wall. You know, he lost everything after the war, and he's in the wall, and now he's just serving himself and his power. And I think he kind of blocks the fact that Mr. Alistair is a Targaryen. You know, he chose to be there. He chose to give away the, you know, his power and all the loyalties he had as a Targaryen, and now he's just a pain in Sir Alistair Thorne's butt. So I think he just generally blocks and, you know, erases that part that he's a Targaryen, because he's not, you know, he's not someone who helps him out in what he needs there in the wall. And I think he's just forgetting that part.
I don't know. I wonder, like, I wonder how many people Aemon tells he's a Targaryen. Like, I think he might have told Jon because he knew Jon was going to be eventually going to be Lord Commander, because that's what him and Mormont had planned. So I'm not sure if he shares that information to everybody.
But I would think that.
But he's been there so long, yeah.
I just think he'd be able, you know, if you're a Targaryen loyalist, you'd be able to deduce it. You know, you would know. You look at the history books. You knew that Aemon Targaryen went to the Night's Watch. The name sounds Targaryen. I don't know. I just thought maybe he'd be able to deduce it. But yeah, I don't think I guess it's never been said that Aemon ever told him who he was, or that Alistair knows he's Targaryen.
He was from he was from the line of kings. He could have been king. I imagine that would have been, at least for the older generation, it would be like known. You know, I imagine that was like a huge thing when he decided to go to the wall.
I think he came to the wall so long ago that all these people, you know, most of them are so young that they probably wouldn't know, and you give up your name, so nobody probably ever refers to him as Aemon Targaryen. So probably only somebody like Jorah Mormont probably would know, and they probably don't sit there and talk about it that much. So I just think it's probably not relevant.
Right. All right. Well, let's move on. Or go ahead, Tink.
Maybe that's a good point. Maybe he just doesn't know. But he just mentioned his eyes. So if he knew that they weren't always dark, they were purple before. You know, purple.
I think he was blind by the time Thorne got up there.
Yeah.
He would have been about 82-ish, 85. No. Because Aemon's over 100, so he would have been at least 85 by the time.
Well, I think Alistair's been there on the wall about 15 years, right? Maybe 17.
Exactly 15 years, because that's when he went there after the Robert's Rebellion.
I mean, I just thought that maybe he'd be able to, you know, through deduction, figure out that he was a Targaryen. But, you know, It was period, and maybe they just didn't think like that.
Sure, maybe no.
Yeah. So we will move on here, and we'll discuss this next part. So yeah, Jon walks through the gate and is met by Tormund, who shares his mead as they walk to the Wildling camp. He asks for Ygritte and is sorry to hear she is dead. He also says that Longspear Rick stole his daughter Munda while her four brothers, including Toreg and Torwyn, slept through the whole thing. Mance waits outside his tent flanked by Harmon and Varymyr and is not at all pleased to see Jon. Okay, so we'll talk about this Tormund and Jon conversation here. LT, what do you think about Tormund and Jon discussing? You know, they share the drinks over slain brothers. They talk about Ygritte. What do you think about that whole little part there?
It was really cool, man. Just, you know, them reminiscing of lost people. It's just a great conversation. I mean, I don't think I really have much to say about it, but it was really cool.
Tink?
I always like conversations with Tormund. I always find he's one of the characters that I like. So even if he doesn't give, you know, some of his, like this dialogue, it doesn't say like huge things, but I still find it entertaining. You know how he. This also goes about when. Jon also mentions that Ygritte liked the guy who stole the daughter. Does it also? It's all the conversation, right?
I mean, he mentions his daughter being like with Longspear, but I don't think he doesn't mention Ygritte liking him. I don't or does he? I don't remember that part.
Yes, there's a moment that he says that he's happy because Ygritte had always thought well of him, and then and that he was happy that they were happy, something like that. I like the mention of Ygritte because she was a character that I liked, and I was sad that she died.
The exact, all it says is that Ygritte had been fond of Longspear Rick. That's all. That's all it says.
Yeah.
Jerry, what do you think about that whole conversation?
I mean, one, it created a really like a levity for the whole situation. So that was kind of nice because Tormund even in this, he's very lighthearted and very making jokes, talking about Longspear. He didn't even use a spear. I wonder how he got that name.
Yeah.
And he really kind of expands a little bit on wildling culture. How mentions how highly Ygritte was, even though Ygritte wasn't that, like, okay, Rose Leslie's really beautiful, but Ygritte in the books wasn't supposed to be that good looking.
Her teeth were crooked.
Yeah, she was kind of like an average, but she had red hair, and that's like held in real high esteem with the wildlings. And he's like, yeah, if I was 10 years younger, I would have gone after that. And he also mentions about the fighting, like you need a beard, makes jokes about the Maegor or Thin, like how he got it smashed on his head. He's like, he's just laughing. Like even though they're on opposite sides, he's still making friendlies with Jon. So yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation. It had sort of a kind of like a sadness to it, a little bit of poignancy because they're sharing drinks over Mag the Mighty and Donald Noy, and then they had the little chant about Ygritte where Tormund says to Ygritte, kissed by fire, and Jon, I imagine he said, I could imagine Jon in my head anyway when he says he's saying it sadly to Ygritte, kissed by fire, obviously because they had that connection. So yeah, I really enjoyed that part of this chapter. I like Tormund. I like him in the show and the books. Go ahead, Tink, you got something to say?
It was a moment of levity, but I also think, now that I think about it, also it's another reminder. By this point, Jon has been a few chapters back in the Wall. While we got to see the wildlings while we were with him while he spends the time with him, he's been back in the Wall. He's been back, and it's another reminder of how different things happen. Because later on, when he's trying to talk with Mance, and Mance is saying about what he wants and how there's a moment in which Jon says, "Are you gonna keep the king's peace?" And he's like, "Oh no, we're not giving you our freedom if we cross." And it's when Jon says, would the northern men accept the fact that they would be stealing their daughters and all those, because he is talking about how another man entered their tent and stole his daughter, and for them that's normal. But that's not something, and he's saying it as something fun and something interesting that happened, but that's not something that would be well taken in the north and in the Seven Kingdoms. That's not so it's another way of reminding how different they are when the conversation that happens later with Mance, in which he in a way likes the wildlings in the sense that they're like other people and they deserve to live, but at the same time he kind of also knows that it would be very difficult to for the northerners and the wildlings to live at the same place if they're not following the same laws. So I think it kind of works for a moment of a break of the seriousness, but also as another reminder when the next conversation comes, so the fact that even if they're both human and if we both like both, that there's a big culture clash between them.
Well said, Tinker.
And we'll talk about the laws here in a second. Talk to Mance. We were getting we're good now. Okay, so let's move on to the part where Jon and Mance talk in the tent. So Mance waits outside his tent, flanked by Harma and Varymyr, and is not at all pleased to see Jon. Neither is Varymyr, who took Orell's eagle as his own and has absorbed his hatred for Jon. Mance tells him that they know how many men the Watch has and how few supplies they have left. He takes Jon inside to talk alone. Val and Dalla are there as well, and Dalla will be giving birth any time now. Jon is shocked to see the Horn of Winter sitting there. Mance did not tell Jon about it because he never trusted him. Mance says that he could attack all 3 Watch castles at once or send men to dig out gates at the abandoned castle. But he does not do it because his people have bled enough. The others have been hounding them relentlessly, and no one has been able to stop them. He is not moving south to conquer, as Raymond Redbeard, Bale the Bard, Gendel and Gorn, and the Horned Lord did. He is running. He does not want to sound the horn, because if the wall falls, nothing will stand in the way of the others. He tells Jon that if the Watch lets his people pass through, he will turn over the Horn of Winter. Jon asks if he is really a king, and Mance answers yes, though not in the southern sense. The Wildlings follow fighters. When he deserted the Watch, 5 men, including Tormund and Styr, were contemplating becoming kings. Mance bent Tormund and Styr to his cause and slew the other 3. Jon asks if he can make his Wildlings obey the law, but Mance says they would not kneel. If the Watch refuses his terms, Tormund will blow the horn in 3 days. So that's a lot of stuff there, but everything that happened between Jon and Tormund, what do you think, Tink, in regards? We'll start with sort of the terms part. We'll start with the terms. Like, do you think that they were fair terms, and do you think is there any way that it could have worked? The terms.
I think it's very difficult. I think it's very difficult, especially for it to be done like something so sudden. Like this is something of like we're doing now, and it happens from one moment to another. And I understand it because the others are after them. This is not something that is like can be done through a period or of years or whatever. This is like right now. You open the doors and we cross through, or we tear down your wall. And in a way, I understand Mance. I really understand where he comes from, But at the same time, he's not really giving Jon any, in a negotiation, there has to be compromises from both sides. And, for it to eventually work, because you can force your way in, force and demand your way, but there's always going to be resentment. There's going to be issues. There's going to be something that's going to affect in the long term. Like he could get through, and he could get his wildlings through. But then what would happen with all of the northerners when the wildlings start raiding their lands, when they start taking the women? You would have a bloody civil war in the north. That's exactly what would happen. They would just not accept that. They would not. There would be another bloodbath. So he's saying, I don't want my people to bleed, but their people would bleed later on when the northerners would not accept it. So I understand Mance, but he's, he thinks that he's in a position of power, that he's got the numbers, that the men of the Night's Watch have absolutely no chances. And in a way, until the end happens and Stannis comes, that is true. And he could force the wall down. But as he says, that would not help him, because the others would, without a wall, they would just walk right after them and then will slaughter them. But even if he doesn't, the northerners, the Night's Watch will let them through, it's not going to be all roses. They're not just going to go in the areas where the northerners aren't, because the north is very big and not all of it is populated. But they're not just going to be able to be there, and the other northerners are going to say, okay, we'll let you live. Like, the Watch is only on the wall. The rest of the north doesn't actually belong to the Night's Men. They don't have any control of what happens there. The Northerners do. And that's where he would have an actually big problem. So, if they would at least accept to follow the king's law when it comes to the rest of the Northerners, like in their own cities, in their own towns, stay with their culture, but then try to, with the others, a bit of a compromise, but he's not willing to compromise in anything. And if there's no compromise in either side, if you have the power to do it, it might work in the short term, but it will never happen in the long term, because people will always remember there will be resentment, and in the end there will be bloodbath. So I don't think it was a negotiation that could ever really, be fruitful because he's not willing to compromise at all.
Right. Obviously, best case scenario, he would have been like, yes, we'll let us through and we'll adopt the Northern law. But of course, that wasn't going to happen with the wildling culture.
Mance claims his compromise is he's giving up the horn. He's like, well, I'll leave the wall up. That's my compromise.
Right. So, well, I'll go to LT first because he might have to leave soon. LT, what do you think about the exchange between Jon and Mance and the Mance's terms for the Night's Watch? All right. Well, maybe LT is not available at the moment. Jerry, same question.
Wait, say that again.
What do you think about the whole situation between Jon and Mance and his terms? And we'll discuss the horn in a minute. So just in terms of the terms.
The terms. Okay, so well, I mean, Jon was going out there to kill him, so he didn't really have any like plan or anything. He was thinking about ways in which he's going to do it, and but he never does it because he wants to hear what Mance has to say. And in that case, that's when we find out, he's running. As you mentioned, they're running. Why they're running? Dala comes out. It's like, yeah, we're running from others, and Mance just kind of explains the situation, how bad it is for them, and while they're going across, and the desperation that they're showing. But obviously, not desperate enough if they are not willing to form to, the culture of the land that they're, coming to. They want to come onto their land and keep their culture, which would mean being like the Greyjoys, but worse. Well, I don't know. They're kind of the same, the Greyjoys. And we all know that we all know that's not going to fly.
Yeah. LT, what do you think about Mance and Jon?
There is no compromise, and just imagine, okay, say Jon lets them through. Jon can't trust the fact that they won't slaughter every night's watchman. I mean, they could possibly do that. But, in my thing now thinking about this, okay, maybe this whole thing that went down in this chapter, in a way, possibly benefited the wildlings. Think about it. Okay, say Jon lets them through and they don't slaughter the night's watchman, right? They go to the north. All the northern houses slaughter them. And if they make it farther than the north, everybody else slaughters them. There's no safety if you think about it, because everybody hates wildlings. So maybe this is the best thing that happened for the wildlings, because I think they would have probably got eradicated in the end, and there would have been no more wildlings if they made it through the wall and then farther south. So think about this. This is probably the best possible thing that happened for them. But no compromises.
It's a good observation, LT. So let's discuss the Horn of Joramund. Of course, we know that Mance was threatening the Night's Watch with the Horn of Joramund and was going to offer it to them in terms of letting them through. Now we know that later, when Mance gets burned, he gets burned along with the Horn of Joramund. Of course, we know that Mance is really Rattleshirt, glamored as Mance. And we know that later Tormund tells Jon that the Horn of Joramund was a fake, and that Mance never really found it. So, do you guys think that the Horn of Joramund is real, and will it play any important role in the future? Jerry?
I think the Horn of Joramund is the one that Sam has. And I think, I think someone's actually going to blow it. But it's not going to bring down the wall, per se. It's not going to do that. I think it's going to be more like it's going to remove the magic from the wall, so it's just a big block of ice instead. No longer this is that magic warding away, whites and others and all that. So that's what I think. I don't think whatever Mance found is a real horn.
So what you mean, Jerry, is that you think that if someone blows the real horn, the wall will remain intact, but the others and the White Walkers, the Whites and the White Walkers will be able to climb the wall and cross over.
Yeah, basically. Probably pretty easily, since they obviously control, heat and just could, makes heat go away and create ice. They manipulate the ice. They could probably make a ladder for them to climb.
LT?
You know, I was one of the ones saying that I don't think the wall is going to come down. And what Jerry said just made a lot of sense. It does make sense that if somebody blows the wall and then they could, because in the show we got the Night King touching Bran and makes it so he could go in the cave. So maybe in the books, that's how the others in the White. I agree with Jerry. I think that makes sense.
Well, I think it's a possibility. Sam has the horn. He's down in Old Town. We think Euron's going to Old Town. What if he gets control of that old war horn? Is that a possibility?
Definitely.
There's definitely a possibility.
Because
especially since some of us have a theory that Euron might be working with the Great Other.
Right, of course. I definitely think that. And I do think that Euron and Sam will cross paths. Hopefully it doesn't end bad for Sam, but I don't know if it's an end.
No, I love Sam.
But I do think it's a possibility because I think Euron's going to come to Old Town and sack it. Tink? What is?
I just got to say, Tink, you love Ned too. You love Rob.
Yes, and I did not want it to happen. Just because it happened doesn't mean that I want it to happen. So I love Sam, and I do want it to happen.
You love Oberyn.
Well, Tink, what do you think about the Horn of Joramund?
You're just being mean, Jerry. You're just being mean.
Yeah, bad Jerry. Bad Jerry.
Bad Jerry. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's real or if it's not, if it's fake. I'm not certain because sometimes at this point, I don't trust George. I just don't. There's so many times that he's tricked me that is just, you never know. One thing I do believe is that if the horn is just, I do believe that wall is going down. I think there's too many hints, too many things about the wall going down, and it would be something that, we've also seen that, the wall, the Night's Watch is in a point that, of decadence. It's fallen to its lowest point. There's never been so few of them. It's never been in such a bad state. So many of the castles aren't being taken care of. I think that it's gotten to the point that sometimes to rebuild something, you have to really tear it down. And what better way of tearing down the Night's Watch than that bloody wall falling down? And it also would be a way to really shock everyone out of their, stupidity. They're like, who cares what's on the other side of the wall? The wall can't protect us. If that wall goes down, boy, will they wake up. And really, at this point, they're all so stupid and so in their infighting that they can tell them that there's others in the other side of the wall. They won't care. But let me tell you, if that wall goes down, all the 7 kingdoms will be waking up very, very fast because they'll think, what the hell is capable of tearing down that wall?
I like the words you use there, Tinker, shock and waking up, because a wall of that size coming down, like literally coming down, would cause earthquakes throughout all of Westeros and typhoons into there. So it would be like the movie, The Day After Tomorrow, if that actually happens. So that's why I don't think the wall is actually literally coming down. That'd be too much natural. It would turn into a natural disaster movie.
I think that's exactly why it's going to go down. Because I think that that's exactly what the 7 kingdoms need. Come on, there's so much infighting, so much them thinking about only their own interest. And an army of the dead is coming for them. They don't fucking care. They don't fucking listen. Unless the earth beneath them shakes.
One second, Tink.
They're not gonna win. They're not gonna, like, yes, your Stannis did go.
Okay, yeah.
Your Stannis, he was the bloody exception. He was the bloody, even the Northerners don't listen to the Southerner that went to try to save them.
People who say run to Dorne, when I mean natural disasters, I mean even natural disasters would probably hit Dorne as well. It would be that bad. I mean, that wall is massive. Massive. Like,
I know. But the Dornish are not going to care what happens in the north of the wall unless their own earth shakes beneath them.
Well, it will shake beneath them because it's that big.
How far is the wall from the ocean? I can't remember. From the sea.
It's connected to the sea. It's connected on each
Okay,
side
so
of the shadow
if the wall falls into the sea, Jerry, are you saying a massive tidal wave could just hit everything?
Yeah, it'll send ripples. And like, I mean, it won't be just one mass. It'll be like a bunch of like, you'll see a lot of hurricanes and, you know, I mean, a lot of, something that big is going to move things below it. Like falling down and hitting with that impact is going to move things. And that's going to cause a giant ripple effect. It's that, the thing is, how many miles high is, or not, is it, this thing, not miles high, how many feet high?
I think it's 755 feet high, right?
So, yeah, that's ridiculous. Look, I mean, just think of like what New York smelled like. What the fact that what happened when the Twin Towers came, and that's just like a 1/10,000th of what the Twin Towers were.
Not only how high it is, the amount of miles.
Yeah,
It's an enormous amount of miles. But that's exactly why I think it's going down. Right now, come on, look at how the Seven Kingdoms are. Stannis is the only exception. And even him, he needed a wake-up call from Davos and Melisandre to go up there. And no one is gonna, he's the only one who went up there. And even then, he's still going down to conquer Winterfell, which I understand why he does it, and it's a very good reason. But even still, I think that wall needs to go down. I think it's the only way that the rest of the Seven Kingdoms is just going to wake up and decide we all have to go up there and finish this once and for all.
And it might wipe out the dinosaurs in Southern or Aderos or whatever the dinosaurs hang out.
I forgot to. Oh wait, James wants to talk. Sorry.
Well, what were we gonna say, LT?
I was just gonna say we never mentioned the fact that Mance Rayder is a turncloak and a traitor. You know, he traded his brothers. He is a traitor and a criminal.
He is a criminal.
He is. He definitely is.
He swore a vow and he broke his vow.
Which is what he really got executed for, not for being the king of the North and, you know, doing a rebellion against the Night's Watch. He was killed because he betrayed the Night's Watch 20 years before or whatever. But yeah, I believe the wall is falling for sure. It's even said so. I mean, it's essentially foreshadowed in this chapter alone when Dalla says, but once the wall is fallen, Dalla said, what will stop the others? So, I mean, I think that's pretty much foreshadowing that it's going to happen. I think we all agree that the wall is going to fall.
I agree that it's going to fall in a literal sense, as in the magic of the wall will fall.
Yeah, I mean, it could. Not
a little sense. In a
the
metaphorical.
barrier. The barrier between the others and the South is going to fall.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about this last portion here. Suddenly, a horn sounds. Mance goes outside, and Varymyr tells him that riders are coming from the east, including men in black. A group of rangers appear, and Harma rides past to meet them with 30 raiders.
Here come the men in black.
Mance sees they are East Watchmen and figures Cutter Pike thought he could take Mance, just as he took Rattleshirt at Longbarrow. Mance mounts his horse to join his men. He orders Varymyr to watch Jon kill him if he flees. Suddenly, Varymyr screams, and Jon sees his eagle on fire. Val comes out wondering where Mance is because the birth is beginning. Jon sees the Rangers give way before Harma, but they are supported by a group of knights. Jon tells Val to go inside the tent. 3 columns of heavy horse emerge. One smashes into Harma's raiders while another engages Tormund, his sons, and his spearmen. All is confusion among the wildlings. The giants on their mammoths engage the center column and scatter it, but the other 2 keep coming. Jon holds his ground as women and children run past, and Varymyr slinks away on all 4s. More and more men emerge from the trees behind a yellow banner. Mance tries to rally his men, but his horse is killed under him. The wildlings break and run. Jon sees Harma's head on a pole and then sees gigantic royal standards bearing a flaming heart and the prancing stag. Jon thinks for a second it is Robert, even though that is impossible, until he hears his men crying out the name Stannis. So, yes, that moment gives me chills every time I think about it. So I'm going to start with Jerry here because I want to ask him specifically. You know, he read the series before the show was even a thought. What did you when you were reading this portion, like, did you know it was Stannis right away, or like how long did it take until you realized it was Stannis, and what do you think was happening there at that point?
I mean, I didn't know what the fuck was happening because the whole damn thing about this book here, is that starting about at this point, somewhere around here, every other chapter was like, what the fuck, what the fuck, what the fuck, like it was just. I read this. I probably took about I don't know, a couple weeks to read this much of it. This next part I read in I think 2 days, and that's because I was just on adrenaline. Like I don't even know if I had time to think. It was going like every chapter, almost every other chapter was like just a surprise. So I didn't really think too much about it. I didn't even remember like the foreshadow, like because Owen from the previous chapter was like, I had a dream that King Robert came and saved us from the Wildlings, which is why Jon thinks Robert, because he's thinking about what Owen was said earlier. So I mean, I didn't even think about that. I was just like, who the fuck is this? Gotta keep reading. Gotta keep reading. Keep reading. So that's how it was for me. I was on the edge of my. I don't know. I don't know where I was on the edge of. I don't remember where I was sitting, but I was on the edge of something.
LT, what'd you think about about Stannis smashing the Wildlings?
I was the same as Jerry. I didn't know what the fuck was going on, who the hell it was, and I thought because when they said that back in Blackwater they thought it was Renly, so I was like, what is somebody wearing Robert's armor or something like that? But then yeah, when you hear Stannis, things are gonna be okay. They saved the day. It was just epic and one of those great moments. And the Wildlings got smashed. Guys, I gotta go. I'm so happy to be here, and I love you guys. I'll see you guys later. LT out.
All right, LT. It was good to have you on.
Yeah, well, you got through most of it, LT. Glad you were here.
One last thing, Stannis.
There you go. Tink, what'd you think about this last part of this chapter here?
Well, I've got to admit, I really liked when the eagle caught fire and that really hurt Varymyr because I hate his guts. So that part made me really happy. I was like, yes! Especially because Varymyr was not nice to Jon when he got there. And he was like, ooh, someone could burn. That I really did like. A part of me is the things about this books, George sometimes can be a real bastard. And it's the fact that, sometimes you're conflicted because a part of me is like, yes, Jon got saved. The wall got saved. But, I also like the wildlings. And I really understand the wildlings and the necessity of what they're doing. So another part of me also feels sorry for the wildlings. There's a lot of wildlings that I like. I like Tormund. I like Baal. I like Dala. Dala dies while during the birth of the baby. And Mance cannot be there for the birth of his son. And I feel a bit sorry about that. And it's just, it was a great moment. It was a great moment because, you don't expect it. You think that Jon is screwed. You don't know how the hell he's going to get away with it. And suddenly it appears and you're like, where, how, why? And another part is like really great how they're just like, they're everywhere. We cannot. So it's but at the same time, it's like, you kind of want to back both sides, which you can't in a battle, in a war, because one side always has to win unless they parlay. So it's kind of like I want my cake and eat it too, and I can't in a battle. So that's but it is a really great sudden change, something that you're not expecting. So, and Stannis also, you always associate Stannis with the South, and you're like, wait, we're north of the wall. Is this the right chapter? So it was a great moment story-wise, and it's a great moment in the sense that Jon gets saved. And I really, really loved when the eagle caught fire and Varymyr goes burned. But at the same time, it kind of shows that in a war, like...
I felt sorry for the cat. Cat got hurt too.
Yeah, and in a war, you can kind of see that even if one side wins, there's really a lot of damage, collateral damage. And if you're only on one side, you cannot, and you're the winning side, you don't see it as much. Well, if you see the side that loses, but you also like them, you can kind of see sometimes how. So that's the thing. So that's what I like. It's actually one of the things that I like about these books. You can like a lot of characters that are in different sides, and you're like, well, I don't want bad things to happen to either character, but in this world in which there's battle and there's war, one side is always going to end up hurt. So it's one of the great things about the books, and one of the sad things about the books.
One thing I'll say about the Wildlings, and I will say that Stannis treated them pretty fairly. He offered him terms. He offered him a place in his army as long as they served him. Mance, obviously, well, fake Mance got burned, but that's because he was a deserter of the Night's Watch. Yeah, me personally, I was a Stannis fan before this moment because I watched the show. I liked him from Blackwater in that episode when he was the first. He was a king and he was the first one off the boats, and he was slashing people up left and right. I respected that in the leader. Of course, he didn't do that in the books, but I really didn't like book Stannis as much until I got to this portion. And then once we get into Dance and we see him interacting more with Jon, and we see what kind of guy he is. Yeah, he's a little surly, but he doesn't take any shit, and he doesn't like brown nosers. And when people say that he doesn't compromise, though, there's been plenty of moments of him compromising, and one with the Wildlings was one. Now, obviously, I personally, looking back in retrospect, especially since I had much greater respect for Stannis after Dance with Dragons, this moment is just a great moment for me. It's a hallmark moment, and it's just an epic moment. I did a reread on it, and when you add dramatic music and sounds, and you're yelling Stannis, I couldn't help but get chills. I think most people would say the same if they're a Stannis fan. But yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead, Tink.
No, go ahead. You finish. I was the one who interrupted with my thoughts.
I was gonna say, yeah, and Stannis, yes, he needed prodding from Davos particularly to go north, but it doesn't change the fact that every Southern Lord, including King's Landing, received letters saying the same thing. Sam wrote them all about the threat of the others, and it took Davos and Mel did convince Stannis to go, and my Stannis fandom includes all of them. It's a tent of Team Dragonstone. So I enjoy that whole aspect.
Hold on. Did he get the threat of the others out? I thought he just got the threat of the Wildlings out. I'm not sure. I thought he failed at one.
It was the Wildlings, but I thought there was kind of a mention of a different threat as well.
Yeah, but I think he failed to get that one out. I thought, other than the Castle Black,
the next
maybe.
Conversation. The next chapter, I read the chapter before and after. Well, sort of. When Jon talks to Stannis, he also talked with Melisandre. Melisandre makes a mention of the Great Other, and then the darkness and all those kind of creepy things.
Well, I thought that was just from her religion, that she just knows about the Great Other. She's like, oh, it's probably.
No, but I think it came out from the fact that the others were there, and it's kind of what sparked her thing. And
well, either way, he was the only Southern Lord to go north to help the Night's Watch in their time of peril.
What I was going to say is that I really like the fact that we got to see him in the victory, because there's a lot of mentions of him being a great commander, but in the books he never actually goes to battle with Renly. He dies because of the Shadow Baby. When he captures Storm's End, it also happens because the steward there dies also because of Shadow Baby, and then he gets defeated in the Blackwater because of the Tyrells, and how they play up the fact that it was Renly coming back from the dead when they were dressed in his armor and all of that stuff. So we don't actually get to see him, win as a commander in a battle. So we get a lot of mentions of how he was a lot, but so it's nice to finally see him, here. We don't actually hear the entire battle, but we do get the idea that the wildlings were a lot more number, and that, you know, him and his strategy and how his army come and start defeating little by little the wildlings, and how come the wildlings cannot. It's a nice way to see him, you know, him leading an army and seeing how he really is a good commander, and it's the first time we actually see him fighting and win a battle without Melisandre's sorcery, without intrigue, without nothing. He goes with his army against a bigger army, but his strategy and the way that he leads in an army, just the wildlings, even with their numbers, they just stand no chance. So I think that's also a very good moment for his character while we read the books as a leader and as a commander, because without this battle, we wouldn't have any proof. You know, because there's a lot of, you know, they say in the books, words are wind. You know, there's a lot of words of all his victories, but we never actually get to see him until this moment. So it's a very nice moment for him, you know, in that sense.
Right, and it also shows the, you know, the whole adage they've been talking about, how the wildlings, despite their numbers, wouldn't actually be able to win, you know, against a real force, a mounted, properly armed force, less numbers than they definitely had, was able to take them out with proper tactics, you know, flanking from the sides with you know, mounted knights, and it was just, they were just able to wash over the wildlings. Like, you know, I just imagine the wildlings as a big cluster, and then like these mounted knights were just able to come from both sides and just wash them out. And they had elephants too, and it was just a great. It's just a great scene. So it shows that a properly focused military, despite its numbers, could take out a giant force like that.
How much was he outnumbered by, James? Stannis.
I don't remember the exact numbers, but I mean, there was how many wildlings? Like,
I think it was like 40,000 wildlings.
Yeah, and I think there was probably like, I don't even know the size of their force, but I mean, it definitely was. The numbers are definitely quite, there's definitely a big disparity between the numbers. I don't know the exact number of Stannis's forces, but it was quite large, the disparity. Do you remember exactly how many?
I can't remember how much Stannis meant, but the whole thing was that Stannis's men were all like heavy horse, heavy armored cavalry. So I think they were probably worth at least like probably 10 wildlings for maybe more.
Yeah, I think it was kind of like a 10-to-1 ratio or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Ruhel says 1,500 men, so that'd be even a bigger disparity than I even remembered.
So that's about three times as much. The wildlings, there were 3 times as many wildlings, but because his were heavy cavalry, they're easily able to overcome those odds.
So another interesting thing that happened, and Tink brought it up, was Melisandre burning Orell's eagle.
Sorry, 1,500 men. I thought you said 15,000.
Yeah, 1,500. So it was more than.
So it's like a 30 almost.
Yeah.
To 1 ratio.
But yeah, Tink brought up the burning of Orell's eagle by Melisandre. Now this has always been interesting to me because it shows that Melisandre maybe has real magic, or how did she, take down Orell's eagle? I mean, did she cast some sort of flame spell? It's like she was like a wizard there. What do you think about that, Jerry?
I mean, did we ever find out what exactly she used? Like when I first heard that Orell's whip was on fire, I figured it was like an archer with a flaming arrow. That's what I originally had thought. Then you hear later that Melisandre did it. We don't know how she did it. Did maybe she light up the arrows on flame? Like I have no idea how she did that.
Yeah, it never mentioned it. In my imagination, it seems like she used real magic to burn it from the inside or something, like casted some sort of like immolation spell or something. But I mean, I don't know if that's really the case. I'm not sure. That's why it's interesting point.
There's a lot of things that we don't know about what she can do. She has mentioned that she has tricks that she can do with chemistry and stuff, but we've also seen that she has real magic. Like that shadow baby, that was no trick. That was actual, real magic. We've also seen the thing that she does with Mance and the Lord of Bones. She just says that she needs the bones or something. But the fact is that he looks like...
And she's stronger at the wall. Her magic is stronger at the wall because of the magical properties of the wall.
That's what she says. And she doesn't get cold. You know, Jon Snow, that he's from the north, is practically freezing, and she's completely warm. Like, she's got magic. But one thing that is interesting about her order is that we never actually get, you know, it's never actually completely explained where their powers come from and the extent of what they can do. We see the same with, oh my god, my mind just went completely blank. We see another red priest with the Kraken. Oh, the one that does this thing. Makaro, that's it. Look what he can do also. We've also seen him do magic. You know, the whole hand was like rotting away, and then it's like a fist of fire. That's not trick. That's not trick. That's genuine magic. So, I do think that she used magic. I also think that she cannot use it all the time and for everything. She says that she just has limits, but I don't think we'll get to know, because I think that the more mysterious he keeps them, the more interested we are, and the more he can do. Like, the more rules you put on something, the more you limit yourself, and the more you have to explain and need to have the right circumstances. If you keep them something very mysterious and very vague, you have a lot of things that you can use it for. It's much easier for him to move around. So I don't think we're ever going to have a full explanation.
Right. It's always been interesting whether it was really just a parlor trick or if it was real magic. It's good to, I guess, keep guessing on that. But it's very interesting. You know, definitely at the wall, her powers have definitely increased.
Yeah.
I do think that is interesting, because, you know, if she, you know, if her Lord of Light is real and is completely the opposite to the great others, why would she be stronger on the wall when the great other, where that is, you know, where the great other is? It would be, I would think, that it would be weaker.
Well, the wall of magic apparently is supposed, I don't know if it does, it's supposed to block the magic of the great other. So it's supposed to be kind of the counter to the great other and the others.
But that doesn't mean that it gives strength to her, because it wasn't done with the magic of R'hllor. It was done with the magic of the North. So that would also mean that her magic is not there the strongest.
Well, hold on. We don't know that, actually. We don't know exactly what kind of magic was put into the wall. For all we know, a red priest could have been there during, the original Azor Ahai in the Last Hero, and during Bran the Builder, and helped build that. For all we know, we don't have that information to say that it wasn't her magic.
I get the idea that they're not as good as they think. I always have a very bad feeling about them. I get a very bad feeling. I get the idea that she might think that she's working for the right side, but that she might accidentally be working for the other ones.
You just don't like Melisandre because she goes to the extremes to protect people.
Oh, no. I actually like Melisandre. I think she's a very interesting character. But I would like the idea of her believing that she's working for good and that she's doing it for the right God, and the idea that she might be working for the enemy. Can you?
Well,
I mean, it's possible, but we know she believes she's working for good.
Yeah, well, she believes it.
Imagine if she suddenly realized that she's not.
Well, I've already said that. I've already done speculation that she's the tall, shadowy woman in Aaron's Nightshade visions that he had in the Forsaken chapter. I believe that she's going to get either killed or captured by the others when they, when Stannis eventually dies, and that she's either going to get turned or she's been, like you say, unknowingly working for them in some regards, and she's going to be the Night's Queen, and she's the tall, shadowy woman with the blue flames. That's what I think, but that's beside the point. So what do you guys think? All in all, I mean, we're essentially at the end of this chapter. You guys want to do final thoughts, or do you guys have anything more you wanted to add on?
Well, I never mentioned about what I thought when Stannis was coming on. I was just kind of
go ahead.
In my 2 cents. I mean, it was kind of funny that, like, you know, first he thinks it's Cotter Pike, but we find out, I mean, technically it is Cotter Pike, but Cotter Pike is escorting Stannis because, you know, we see the Rangers get there first, the men in black, and, you know, the Night's Watch, they get there first, and then they're, you know, escorted by Stannis. And then, you know, you see Jon pull out his sword. You're thinking, is he really going to, you know, take out Mance right now? And instead, you know, he uses it to ward off, like, keep Val and Dallas safe, which was what we end up finding out is what he did. You know, Slint tries to bring it up as like, oh, he's a traitor. He was protecting them because he's in cahoots. But then he's like, no, I was just doing the right thing. We already had won. We were kidnapped. These were valuable hostages. So, what did y'all? I want to know, what did y'all think about? He had a golden opportunity to kill Mance really at that point when instead he chose to protect Val and Dalla. What do y'all think about that?
I just don't think it's Jon's style. I think that, you know, Jon thinks that it's, you know, assassination and that style, that it's, you know, he always keeps, you know, during the chapter, he's always thinking, you know, that he didn't think that dying was so bad, but the way he died, and he's like, oh, I'm going to die as a traitor, as a turncoat or something. You know, he thinks that what he's doing is completely dishonorable and just plain wrong. And that's just, you know, he's like, I'm so glad that my father is not alive to see this shame. And I think that he's been sent there, and I think that he thinks that it's what he has to do to keep his vows as the Night's Watch. But I think that it's just not something that comes to him. You know, he's been there, he's been listening to all the talk, and I think it's because he just doesn't want to do it. You know, if he would challenge Mance one-on-one, then that's another thing, you know. But just assassination, I don't really think it's in Jon. And I think that the moment that they get attacked, it's his way out. You know, it's his way out of not doing that, because, you know, it's a battle, it's a war, there's 1,000 things that he can say, you know, like, oh, I'll do it later, or this is what I really have to do before. I just don't think that it's in him. I think that he never wanted to do it from the beginning, and that when they attack, it's the best, it's, you know, it's a chance for him not to have to do what they've asked for him. And it's a way to do it without, you know, truly dishonoring him himself, because the things have changed.
I didn't really think he had a chance, because they were talking terms, and then as soon as he's kind of talking terms, and he says, you know, if you refuse, Mance Rayder said, Tormund Giantsbane will sound the horn of winter 3 days hence at dawn. And as soon as he says that, that's essentially when he hears they hear the war horns, from, you know, coming from Stannis and Cotter Pike, and essentially after that, Mance suits up and bounces. So I don't think he really had a chance. Am I reading that wrong?
Yeah, but I mean, he also sees Mance, like when he's fighting, he easily could have come after him. Like at first, Varymyr was guarding him, but once he went up into flames, you know, he fell on his back screaming, and so did the cat. The cat was burning too. I assume the wolves were as well. So
yeah,
he had an opportunity there to come at Mance. Instead, he chose to, you know, protect.
I just think at that point he really wasn't thinking about it. Probably he was kind of confused himself, and he was probably just letting it play out. And obviously, I mean, it worked out for him in the long run. And I'm sure, you know, obviously the writer's discretion obviously had more plans for Mance, so he wasn't going to have that happen. But yeah, he could have. But I'm sure he just had, you know, different thoughts on his mind at the time, because crazy shit was going on. He didn't really know what was happening. He didn't know if it was his brothers or not. And then of course he starts seeing the standards and stuff. But you know, I'm sure he was just confused.
We also hear from Mance as this whole thing is going down. We hear them saying, "Could it be the others? Could it be the others?" And Mance confirms that the others only come out at night. Can't be the others.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, and it's interesting because obviously in the show we see them out during the day, but yeah. So yeah, obviously that was a good thing that Mance pointed out. Did you guys have any other thoughts? No. Okay.
No, I think that's about it.
All right. Well, we'll go down the line, give final thoughts, grade the chapter on a scale of 1 to 10, and yeah, I guess also at the same time, do your sign off, Jerry.
All right, everyone. Thanks for stopping by and listening to us do this epic reread. As far as the rating on this one goes, I can't give it a 10 because it wasn't. I mean, other than the ending, it really wasn't a 10. And man, I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a solid 8.5. It was good, but no, never mind. I'm gonna give it a 9 because it's the ending. So I'll give it a 9. Yeah, and the only reason it's not, well, yeah, let's just go with 9. I'll debate myself to the end. If I keep going on, I'll just stick with a 9.
What do you think, Tink?
I'm gonna give it a 9.5. I really like the chapter. I think it's a great chapter, but you know, as I say, I feel a bit sorry for some of the wildlings. You know, so, and it's a hard episode also for Jon. But yeah, 9.5. 9.5, almost perfect.
I obviously have to give it a 10. For personal reasons, it's like one of the only chapters I've actually read probably like 5 or 6 times. Plus, it's just one of my favorite moments. And you know, there's probably some chapters maybe I like better, but I got a lot of chapters that are 10s. But this is definitely one of them. And yeah, the Manus. He came and saved the day. He's the king that cared, the one true king of Westeros, the only one that came up and smashed the wildlings. So, with that being said, I'm going to be that'd be the last thing that to be said. We're going to go and do our sign-offs. Jerry.
Yeah, Jerry the Targaryen Steamboat here. You can find me here at the Hypes Watch, and looking forward to seeing you the next reread next month.
Tink.
Thank you everyone who came here to watch us live. Also, thank you everyone who's gonna watch it later on when it's not live. But it's always great to have you guys here while I read the chat. I'm not always there, and I cannot always be there involved because I'm just really bad about keeping track and talking at the same time. But thank you very much for being here. It's been a great chapter to talk about, and I've just had a lot of fun. So you can find me in the Hypes Watch, in my own channel, Tinker Jessa, and in Twitter under the same name. Bye-bye.
And yes, everybody, I am your humble moderator, James Michelle. I was glad to be here and talk about this great chapter. Obviously, it's one of my favorites. I know on October 4th, I believe we're trying to get a Flash discussion. We're going to be talking about Season 1 and 2 of The Flash and doing Season 3 predictions. And we hope to review The Flash as the season is going on. Also, we'll be having October reread, and I hope you guys join us live for that. And until then, if you liked the video, hit the like button, share it on social media, and subscribe. Until next time, adios.